Hey everybody, and welcome back to the board meeting. Today I'm going to be talking about a couple different games. If you like this one game, the first game that I'm going to talk about, that's an older game that came out a few years back. I really think you're going to like this newer game that just recently came out at maybe towards the end of last year, or I can't remember. It's been a minute. So let's get into the first game that we're going to be talking about, and this is Under Falling Skies. This is a solo-only dice worker placement game where it's basically Space Invaders, the board game. It's very similar to that game, that 70s, 80s arcade style game, where you had a bunch of ships that were coming out of the sky and trying to kamikaze their way into yourself. So you're sitting there shooting those little ships down. In the same way in this one, there is a big giant mothership that is slowly descending and trying to make it to your base to invade Earth. And along the way, it's going to be shooting out these little basically baby ships that are trying to kamikaze into your base to make you lose health. And you're just placing your dice in strategic manners to try and shoot out these ships that are coming out to try and do enough damage basically to the mothership in order to win the game. And I mean, I won't go into too much details about it, but it's a fun dice worker placement solo only game that got quite a bit of hype when it first came out. And I think it came out like 2020-ish or so. So it's been about 4 years since this game came out. And it got a lot of hype. Especially for a solo game. Solo games don't get a lot of hype. Like solo only games don't get a lot of hype a lot of times. But this is one of them that kind of broke through that. And it's kind of got like this cult classic feel to it now. And so that's Under Falling Skies. I think it's a great game. It's still a fantastic game. I love it. It came out as a campaign, but it's one of those games that says, hey, you can play it as a campaign or you can play it as one-shots, which is a huge boon to it. When a game is like strictly campaign, you're like, meh, it's going to be have a hard time getting to the table. But when you play through this campaign, it slowly unlocks more complexity to this game. It unlocks new modules you can play with, new different special abilities, new different types of dice, new different lots and lots of different scenarios in this. There's so many modules, so many like these little tiny expansions that you can break out at any time and just play them as little one-shots, which I played through the campaigns, I think, twice. But now, whenever I break it out, I just play it strictly as a one-shot. I'll probably never play the campaigns again, but the campaign worked really well as an introductory to the new mechanisms that they introduce. But yeah, this box is jam-packed. It is completely filled with all of these other little modules that you can add into it, and I just think it's fantastic. It has a ton of replay value because of that modularity that it has with it. So the next game we're going to be talking about, if you liked Under Falling Skies, I think you're going to really like this. I see a lot of similarities between these two, and that is Skyteam. This is a newer game that came out. This is a two-player only cooperative dice worker placement game where you are and another person are playing as the pilot and co-pilot, and you are placing dice, taking turns placing dice on this board, trying to accomplish a couple different things. You're trying to make sure the plane is level, so if you tilt too much in this plane, you're going to roll over and you crash. There is going to be speed. You need to be going a certain amount of speed. You want to land at the airport at a certain time. You are trying to the pilot is trying to place out dice and get the landing gear out, where the co-pilot is putting out dice, trying to get the flaps going. And there's a couple different things going. You got to get brakes going. There are airplanes in the air that, in order to get to that space, if there's airplanes in the space that you're going into, you collide and you lose the game. So you're contacting those airplanes and getting them out of the way. It sort of feels like the Under Falling Skies part where, if these ships collide, you're losing the game. In this one, if you collide with these airplanes, you're losing the game. So there's similarities in that fashion. But one of the things in this game, it's cooperative, but there's absolutely no talking while you're placing your dice. And what your partner places is directly going to impact a couple of the spaces that you're putting your stuff onto. And considering you can't talk about the dice that you have, there's no talking at all, no communication, which I don't really understand the theme of that. You probably want to be communicating with your pilot and co-pilot, have them communicate. In this game, you can't. So it's a really interesting luck sort of based game, but you got that interesting dice worker placement spot, and there's not a lot of spots in this, so it's very easy to teach this game. My girlfriend was at work the other day, and she's like, "It's not very busy. You want to come up here and talk?" And I went up there and I brought this game, and I taught it, and I played it with her 3 different times, and that took less than an hour. So teaching plus 3 different games, less than an hour. So it's a very, very quick, fast moving game. There is 6 rounds that you're playing as, and you're each just placing out 4 dice each round. So, 8 dice each round. It moves very quickly. And like Under Falling Skies, there is a lot of modularity in this game. The base game of this is pretty simple, pretty straightforward, very easy to teach, but then you can add in a couple of the different modules, add in a couple of the different airports that add a little bit difference in it. Makes this game have a lot more variability. It doesn't have as much in this box as Under Falling Skies, but it's got enough to keep you occupied for a long time. If you want to play all the different airports, if you want to play all the different modules that they come with, if you want to change the level of difficulty, you can do that pretty easy in this game. It's fantastic. And if you like Under Falling Skies, I think you're gonna really like SkyTeam as well. And Under Falling Skies is a solo only game, where this is just a 2-player game. But there are some solo variants out there on the internet that people have come up with that are very, very easy to implement. And I've played them quite a bit. I just started playing this game 3 days ago now, and I've played it a ton. I've played it 2-player, and I've played it the solo variants that people have come out with, and they work really well. They keep that tension. I still think it's best as a 2-player game, but if you're worried like I'm not going to get it out as a 2-player game, you can play that solo variant, and it works really well. It's just, if you like Under Falling Skies, I think you really should try out SkyTeam, because I think you're going to really enjoy it. It really surprised me how much I liked it. It surprised me how much it reminded me of the feelings I got from Under Falling Skies, this puzzle of the dice worker placement spot where you're fighting against the board. And I really like dice worker placement games. They're my favorite thing. They're almost my favorite mechanism in board games, because you can have a strategy going into this, but that dice is really going to change how you look at each round. You're going to have to adapt to the dice. Strategy on the fly. So it's really tactical in that way. And I think it's a great game, and you should definitely try it out. So yeah, that is, if you like Under Falling Skies, you're probably going to like SkyTeam. And that will complete this video. Make sure to comment down below your thoughts on these 2 games. If you played one, if you haven't, if you really are interested in it, or if the themes or something just threw you off for these games. Either way, if you did enjoy this video, make sure to like and subscribe to see more weekly content from me, Shane, at the board meeting in the future. Hope you all have an amazing day. Take care.